Hey, hi everyone. I hope you're all doing awesome. So, welcome back to another exciting video. So, let me first set the context for today's video. Whenever we talk about the backend systems, we generally talk about the client server architecture where we have one client which send a request to the server and server just check whether it is able to fulfill that request. So, it send a response back to the client, and that's all. But this is based on your request response model, okay, where your client send a request. But what if when we say our backend is beyond that, where your servers need to check, like we have a background jobs over there and the hosted services. So in today's video we'll talk about like what are the hosted services and the background services in ASP.NET Core and where we actually need that. So without any further ado, let's start with the video. Let me quickly share my screen and see you there. Just allow me a moment. Let me quickly set few things here. I need this. Hello. Let me check few things here. Its audio is there, video is there, screen capture is there. Cool. Let me maximize this. So, hey everyone, I hope you can see my screen and I'm audible as well. So, this will be might be a bit long video. So, where we'll see like what is the like theoretical part. Theoretical means what actually they are because we must know, and then we'll see the live code example of that as well. Cool. So, let me start. I have prepared some sections for this. So let me start with section 1 at first. Cool. It's coming in the screen and this is enough. Cool. So the very first, what problem do background or hosted services solve? So as I mentioned that we talk about the client server architecture where we have client, we send a request which just go to your API, and then from API to logic like your business layer where you have written all your business logic. It performs some business calculations and whatever you have written, and it is responsible for. Then we send back a response, and that's all done. But the missing piece is like real backend system must do work that is not triggered by a request, could be a HTTP, because that runs continuously. Okay, like in a background job. Okay, so for example, if we talk about them, do I have laser here? Yeah. So like pulling an external systems every 10 second. Suppose you are making an external API call, or might be you run a job and you are just running in a background, or you can just read here like we have to clean the expired cache entries, because we don't want to maintain the stale data, or each time after certain time I want to just fetch the fresh data from the cache, so that you can write here. And when we want to process the retries, in that scenarios we can use the background services, and whenever we are just streaming the updates to the channel, so that in that scenarios as well. But your HTTP controllers like cannot own these responsibilities because your HTTP controllers are based on a request. We send a request, and once the response is sent back to the client, that's done, and the request scope is disposed. So your controllers cannot take care of those because that's your request response and scope based. But there is an entire life cycle which is associated with your application. When your application starts, your background job starts. When your application stops, and your when your application stops, your background job stops. Okay, so for the section 2 I'll show you like exactly what we have for in code term. I'll show you exactly what we have in terms of code and how these works. Just give me a sec, I'm getting call. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, we were at section 2. So what exactly is a hosted service? So I can say the hosted service, it is associated with your applications. So like as you can read here, code that starts with the application, run independently of HTTP requests, and stops gracefully when the app stops. It's like when you start application it starts, when you stop it stops. Okay, but the key distinction here is like your controllers are request driven, but your hosted services are life cycle driven, because uh, it like runs with the life cycle of your application. Like when you're in application, it starts, it do the job, it it does the job, and when you stop, and there is an entire process and the life cycle. I will talk about later in the video. We have dedicated section and who manages these life cycle and the ASP.NET Core host, and where it is like defined in the namespace of your ASP.NET Core, and it is managed by your ASP.NET Core host. Okay, so in the section 3, yeah, this is the like the timeline, or I would say the pipeline. Okay, so where does it fit in the ASP.NET Core lifecycle? So this is the like the 6 steps here are our app startup timeline. App startup timeline. Okay, so the very first the process starts. I'm here talking about the .NET application, but in most of the frameworks or the systems, the process is almost the same, I would say. Okay, so here we have like the process starts, configuration loads, it loads the configuration like whatever we have, and then dependency injection container builds, like where we add the services into our container, which is managed by your ASP.NET Core like DIs. And the hosted services are resolved. Hosted services, like this part, this piece we are talking about, hosted our background services. Okay, and start async is called. And what is start async? Start async is a hook which is provided by your iHosted service. And what is iHosted service? iHosted service is a background service. I'll cover this later in the video. And what is server? Okay, start async is called server starts accepting requests. So this is the timeline. Most of the time, when we ask someone in an interview like what is the timeline, so they generally don't know, but there are some more couple of things here. Like we add few things in our request pipeline as well, like here when we define like services and all those, that I have in our program.cs. If I show you right here, so as you can see, here we add services to the container, and here we add our we build our HTTP request pipeline, where we define our we have to use controllers, we have to use middlewares, we have to handle the exceptions globally, and everything we define here. Okay, I believe I have covered these all in my DI playlist, so if you haven't checked it out, just go and check it out. Like I have entire playlist on the dependency injection and the kit services, where I have covered a lot about that. So just go and check it out. You will find the link of that playlist in the description. Okay, so cool. So the critical insight, like hosted services start before the first request arrives. Yeah, because it starts with the application. Whenever application starts, your hosted services starts, and afterwards it listen to the applications. Like when we send a request, that comes afterwards. And if we talk about the this was the startup timeline, and if we talk about the shutdown timeline, then we have sig term, that or the control C signal, or our container stop, then host signals cancellation. And here cancellation, like we use the cancellation token, If you don't know about cancellation token, you are really ignoring something big. It's important. And stop async is called app exits. Now if you are observing here, we have two hooks. One is start async, one is stop async. So these are the two hooks which are provided by your iHostedService, which is an interface which is used to run your background services. Okay. uh, Again, if you ignore this flow, there's a hard kill. Okay, this is the expected behavior, and this is the when you want to gracefully shut down your application, this is the way. But if you ignore this, or if anything just unexpectedly happen on the server, then there is a hard kill. And when there is a hard kill, many things happen. It's like sometime we have memory leaks and so many things over there, because it's not gracefully. Okay, so I'll cover these hooks in detail in the code section, and this is section 4 we'll see later, and section 5 is also for the later. So let's jump into the code part. So this is nothing, is it? Yeah, it's coming in the screen, and font is readable as well, I guess. I'm having green tea. Okay, so cool. So now there are two ways to implement the background services or the hosted services. Okay, so how we can do that? So let me quickly. Yep. Hello, hello. I think I am audible. Yeah, yeah. Voice is coming. Hulla, hulla. Okay, good. So I'll create here one class, internal class. I would name it as sample service, and suppose I wanna just declare here a background service. As I mentioned, there are two ways to sorry. So as I mentioned, like there are two ways to implement your sample service and the background service. So as I was mentioning, like there are two ways to implement the background services. One is using the background service, and another is using the I hosted service. We'll see both. Okay, so now if I'm using background service, so I have to implement the missing members. So this is the one. So we'll see inside background service, although we are implementing the I hosted service, which is an interface. So as I was talking about, like inside I hosted service, we have two hooks. One is start async, one is stop async. Cool. And as you can read here, indicates start process has been aborted. Okay, and indicates the shutdown process should no longer be graceful. Represent the asynchronous start operation, stop operation. Okay, and this is your uh, I hosted service, and we have these two hooks inside that. Although your background service is also implementing this and I disposable, but inside that we have only just one method, execute async, that will override here. So what I will do, I'll simply here use the logger for my sample service, and I'll give it a name as logger, and instead of this I will simply say logger dot log info, sample service started. And now how, what do you think when I run this application? So will this work? What do you think? Just take a pause and think. No, it won't work because we haven't like registered this into our container, di container. So until unless we will not register, how our system will know like we have this service in our system or application. Cool. So for that, what we can do, we can say builder dot service dot add hosted services. And here we can simply say the sample service. Am I missing any piece here? And here I can say sample service, Cool. Now as I mentioned here, so let me quickly run this and let's see what we are getting as an output. It's recording now. Yeah. So as you can see, like sample service started. We have only one method and we are just returning completed task, and afterwards whenever background service starts, afterwards we have our application which is like listening the requests on like running on this. And what if I just implement this using your, okay, so let's create one more class, uh, internal class, what do we call, let me call this as hosted service, and this time I'll use I hosted service. Perfect. And this time we'll implement the missing members, and these are the two missing members. Cool. So we have this is our sample service. Now we can just remove this because here we are implementing I hosted. So what I'll do here as well, I'll import the logger here, and this is for hosted service. And if you don't know like what I'm doing, this is the primary constructor concept, I would say. You can check my videos, like I have already covered like what is this, so you can just go and check it out there. And what I will do here, I'll say sample service started, I would say hosted service started, and here I would say logger hosted service stopped, and here also we can simply return task dot completed, and our application has been stopped. So if you observe, this was the earlier output when we were using the background service. We had sample service started and application is shutting down, nothing else. So instead of sample service, now I wanna just run the hosted service. The way is totally same, like there is no difference. Same way we like inject into the di container, like using the add hosted service and the name of the service. And now I'll run this and I'll show you one thing. Hosted service started. Cool. And when I stop this, hosted service stopped and our application is stopped. Okay. What if I before after just adding this logger, if I say here, so first let me make this async will not return this. After this, what I would say, I wanna await task dot delay, and I'm just making it wait for 10 seconds. Now what do you think what will happen? So when I run this application, so although it's running asynchronously, but the thread is blocked because we are just very first our background or I hosted services will start, and after that control comes to our main application. Although it's asynchronous, like they are on different threads, but it's blocking, like uh, as I showed you the startup timeline. Just recall that first it loads the configuration and all those, then it start async method, and afterwards it's like it takes the request from the where is that, yeah, as we know hosted services are resolved, start async is called. Afterwards, one once it's finished, then server starts accepting requests. Cool. And so just to keep in mind that that's why we are having this behavior. But what if uh, I just want like my application should start in a parallel manner? So for that, what we can do, we can just configure here few things. We can say like I wanna configure, and what we can configure, host options here, and inside options we have background service exception behavior, start service current concurrently, and yes, we wanna turn this boolean value as true, and that's all. Or what we can do, we can say options dot service stop concurrently is false. Cool. So now what do you think, what will happen? So when we run this, you'll see hosted service started. Now we can listen the rest of the requests from our service. Here's the camera, I am looking here. So we can listen, but after that our entire application or like that job also has been started, so it's running concurrently, it's not blocking any of them, although this is also asynchronous. Okay, so this is the one way. But if you observe here, inside these hooks we have, inside I hosted service, we have only start async, we have only stop async. This is the granular only. But what we, if we want the more control over there, so for that what we can do there, so inside .NET 8 onwards, we'll say we have internal, I wanna create noobs, why no, I wanna create internal class hosted life service, I hosted lifecycle service, and I would give this name hosted lifecycle. Cool. And what I wanna do, I wanna just implement all the methods. Yep. So as you can see here, what we have start async, we have stop async, we have started async, we have starting async, we have stopped async, we have stopping async. This is where we have the entire control of our application. So for this I have like a small piece of code. To save some time, I'll simply use that snippet here directly. For that, what I will do, I'll simply take is this the one? Can I simply replace this here? Yeah, but we are missing logger here, so I can simply inject the logger here. Cool. It's saying logger does not match. Okay, it's saying just change to this logger and here also. So what I can do, I can just change all logger to logger. Cool. So like in Java we write like that, but here what's it is saying, typo in the word. Okay, you know, this is the great thing about like your JetBrains IDs, they show you like the underline or the things if you are getting any typo or what is the best practice for the naming convention and all those. Like in Java we use like the private, we just define with underscore, but in C we don't. So cool. So here, as you can see, the very first it calls your starting a sync. But wait, before just directly diving into like what are these members, let's go inside I hosted life cycle service. If you observe here, we have I hosted service. It is implementing I hosted service, which means this is your more abstract. We do not have control here. We only have two hooks here, but inside this we have couple of hooks. We have starting, we have started, we have stopping, we have stopped. Cool. And if you observe start and stop, that are coming from your I hosted. If you are understanding this, this is your real oops concept, man. As you can understand, interfaces, how interfaces work, what are interfaces. Okay, so this is pure oops here, and here we are implementing this. So we have this like methods. Starting a sync, the very first calls come to starting a sync. App is starting, then start a sync. Here I'm saying hosted service start a sync. When it actually started, then it the control comes here like started, app started, safe to do background work, like whatever you have defined in your background job, whether it's pulling data or fetching something, or there could be anything. Okay, and when you send a sig term or the control C or stop your container, then stopping a sync, it just says I'm stopping, it pass the cancellation token, like signals the cancellation token, like I'm trying to stop, just drain all the queues and leaks or whatever memory you are holding, just null all those references. Basically it runs your GCs and all the stuff over there. Basically in a nutshell I would say it's gracefully stop your application. The first control comes here, shutdown initiated, stop accepting work, like no new request will be entered in here. Hosted service stop a sync method called, and app fully stopped, cleanup done. Now let me show you like the I'm getting error. Why and where? Okay, it's unable to resolve this because we changed the name. Now we are getting a typo. And one more thing, this won't work because we have to, now we don't need this, we are not using these host options. We can comment this, and for the hosted service we can say hosted lifecycle service we wanna run this time. And let's run this. Let me check one more thing. It's 32 minutes. So okay, so app is starting, hosted service start a sync. Now app started. Cool. Or when you stop, then application is shutting down, shutdown initiated, hosted service stopped, app fully stopped, cleanup code. As you can see, for each layer we have here the control. We can manage, we can handle things. If we want some, if we want to do some stuff, like earlier there was a workaround, we have to create the like callbacks, and we have to implement the fallback mechanisms to achieve this. But all those mess up has been resolved by your .NET 8, although it's old one because now we have .NET 10. But yeah, it's a great thing done by the .NET. But yeah, so if you are getting confused like what is this, so for this I have prepared something in the skeleton. Let me show you quick. So the section 4 is for understanding this. Okay, so we have starting a sync. We have 4 hooks inside I hosted lifecycle service. The very first is starting async, which is allocate resources, initialize connections, load configurations, no traffic yet, which means I'm getting ready but doors are still closed. Just you can relate to, you are just going in a mall for shopping or something in any store. It's getting ready but doors are still closed. Okay. Started async, app is live, safe to process work, start background loops or whatever you have written your jobs, and doors are open, customers can enter. Now doors are open, or you can say when you are just booking any ticket or the show or the online purchasing or sale. Okay, just like doors are closed and now customer can enter, they can book, purchase anything. And when we have stopping async, which means stop accepting new request, signal background loops to what is this, loops to finish. Oh, oopsie. Cool. So signal background loops to finish, drain queues, we are closing soon. Atyana, this is the final call. If anyone wants to purchase or shop anything, just come to the counter. We are closing soon. Decathlon, H&M, Zara, everywhere it happens. Okay, or sometimes in the flight as well. This is the final boarding call. Now the doors, now the gates will be closed. Okay. Stop the sync, clean up resources, final logs, dispose unmanaged handles, lights off, doors locked. Now we cannot entertain any other request. Lights off, doors locked. Cool. So these four hooks are your these I hosted lifecycle service, like starting, started, stopping, stopped. And same we saw here, starting, started, stopping, stopped. So these are the four hooks of your background services. Now you might have a question like when to use which one, like background service or the I hosted service. So when you have simple recurring background work or the simple task, you have polling something or like that, it's a recurring. So just go with the background service. You do not want any much control over there. It's a simple, straightforward. You can just go with that. But when you should go with the I hosted lifecycle service, when you want precise startup and you want gracefully shut down or the shutdown orchestration, you want control at each layer, you wanna inject things, you wanna play with that. So in that scenarios, you can just go with I hosted lifecycle services. And as I mentioned, like where you can use this, you can see pulling an external system, or you can just making a call to the APIs, or in the systems you have defined something in your app config, and suppose you have defined the time over there and you have created the background service. Inside there you have defined the date role, and you are checking like if this is the exact time or the date I wanna just run this job. Well, do you will define the configuration, and then you suppose you are pulling the data from the different sources, might be from different dashboards, could be your trading data, and you are just gathering or collecting all the data, generating a mail template and just sending them. It's for that you can just use background service. And suppose if you have suppose cleaning the expired cache entries and processing retries and streaming updates in those scenarios, and if you want the entire control, like each step you wanna handle certain things, then you can just go with the I hosted lifecycle services. Or if you do not want those much control, so you can simply go with the I hosted service. So these are the ways to define the your background or the hosted services in ASP.NET Core. So if you found this video helpful or useful, then don't forget to like, subscribe or share. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Bye bye.